Good morning. Let me see. Yes. Good morning, Ribhu Gita. Song of Ribhu, chapter 36. Long title: Effacing the Mind by the Conviction, the Bhava, of being the undivided Absolute, and the Destruction of Ignorance by the Conviction, the Bhava, of being the undivided Brahman. Okay, verse 1. I shall speak once again on the pure conviction, the Bhava, of the Absolute, so that the inconstant mind is firmly established in the truth that all is the one supreme Brahman, and that Brahman without a second is oneself. Even if one has all the education in the world, if the mind does not remain firm and undisturbed, the intractable travails of transmigration will never cease. There's no doubt about what is said. Verse 2. There's not an atom apart from the Supreme Brahman, of the nature of existence, consciousness, bliss, the peaceful, the complete, perfectly full, the unwavering, the eternal, the misconceptionless, the veilless, and the actionless. All that is seen as the objective world is indeed the Absolute, and that non-dual Supreme Brahman is myself. By such intensely steadfast conviction, Bhava, conquer the mind. 3. Except for the Supreme Brahman, which is boundless being, the ever-present consciousness, of the nature of a mass of unsurpassed bliss, connectionless, without attachments, existing only by itself. There's nothing such as the body and others ever. All is indeed the undivided Supreme Brahman, and that Brahman, subtle as it is indeed myself. By such pure conviction, Bhava, of the Absolute, conquer the mind. 4. Except for the Supreme Brahman, of the nature of the blemishless, partless, formless, taintless, peerless, attributeless, immaculate self, without any false projections, which is spread out as the infinite and the intersticeless, there never is anything ever. There never is anything ever. All that exists is the undivided Supreme Brahman, and that Brahman without duality is myself. By such conviction, Bhava, of the Supreme Brahman, the One, conquer the mind. 5. There is not an atom apart from the Supreme Brahman, the defectless, which transcends the mind and such, which transcends delusion and the seeds of creation, which transcends the waking and other states, which transcends name and form. All indeed is the undivided Supreme Brahman, and that Brahman, the mass of knowledge, is indeed myself. By such unflinching conviction, Bhava, conquer the mind. 6. There's not an atom apart from the magnificent Supreme Brahman, the sanctified Supreme Shiva, the Supreme Self, of the nature that is higher than the highest, and completely, perfectly full. of the nature of that which alone is Kevala, and the sorrowless. All is ever Brahman, which is truth, awareness, bliss, and that undecaying Brahman is myself indeed. By such silent, quiet conviction, bhava, conquer your mind. 7. I indeed am Brahman, the witness of all. I indeed am Brahman, different from all. I indeed am Brahman, pervading all. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, the ever pure. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, the very highest. I indeed am Brahman, the mass of truth, awareness, bliss. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, which transcends all. By such undivided conviction, bhava, of the Supreme Brahman, conquer your mind. 8. I indeed am Brahman, which has nothing of thought and such. I indeed am Brahman, which spreads as infinite consciousness. I indeed am Brahman, which has nothing of intellect and such. I indeed am Brahman, which is established as the complete. I indeed am Brahman, which has none of this duality. I indeed am Brahman, which is the one, completely, perfectly full. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, the non-dual. By such conviction, such bhava, of the undivided Supreme, conquer your mind. 9. I indeed am Brahman, which is beyond wealth and such. I indeed am Brahman, which is beyond the reach of even an atom of anything else. I indeed am Brahman, which is beyond the range of the Vedas. I indeed am Brahman, which is beyond existence and non-existence. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, which is the pure expanse of consciousness. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, of the nature of the self-luminous. I indeed am the pure decayless Supreme Brahman. By such conviction, bhava, of the undivided Supreme Brahman, conquer your mind. 10. I indeed am Brahman, which is untouched by the gross. I indeed am Brahman, which is unsoiled even by a speck. I indeed am Brahman, which is beyond the reach of time. I indeed am Brahman, which is beyond the reach of sorrow. I indeed am Brahman, which cannot be indicated by any ideas. I indeed am Brahman, which is absolutely quiescent. I indeed am Brahman, which has no trace of transmigration. I am the Supreme Brahman, the taintless, the abodeless. By such conviction, bhava, of the undivided Supreme, conquer your mind. 11. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, which is originless and endless. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, which is bodiless. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, which is casteless and clanless. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, which is devoid of the sextet of changes. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, which is a mass of perfect knowledge. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, which is the fullest of the perfectly full. I indeed am the unaffected, undivided Supreme Brahman. By such one-pointed supreme conviction, bhava, conquer your mind. 12. I indeed am Brahman, which is the flawless Supreme Shiva. I indeed am Brahman, without the least trace of bondage to the world. I indeed am Brahman, which is of the nature of the imperishable. I indeed am Brahman, which is of the nature of perfect knowledge. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, which is nothing apart from the Self. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, which is indestructible. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, which is the source, the origin, without delusions. I indeed am the undivided Supreme Brahman, with nothing trivial about it. By such single-minded supreme conviction, bhava, conquer your mind. 13. The elements and nature, their composite, are all of the nature of Brahman. The world and all things are entirely of the nature of Brahman. All the perishable worlds are entirely of the nature of Brahman. The worlds which are uncreated are all of the nature of Brahman. What appears as a difference is entirely of the nature of Brahman. The myriad galaxies are all of the nature of Brahman. Great sage, by the delusionless conviction, bhava, that I am that Supreme Brahman, conquer your mind. 14. Shankara, Shiva, and Devi, the consort of Shiva, the goddess, are of the nature of Brahman. Shammukha and Vinayaka, the two sons of Shiva, are of the nature of Brahman. The grand retinue of Shiva is of the nature of Brahman. The pure devotees of Shiva are of the nature of Brahman. The glorious goddesses are all of the nature of Brahman. The Lord, the individual souls, and their bondage is of the nature of Brahman. By the delusionless conviction, bhava, that I indeed am that undecaying Brahman, conquer your mind. 15. Hara, Hari, and Brahma, destroyer, sustainer, and creator, are of the nature of Brahman. Their Shaktis, consorts, whom they embrace, are of the nature of Brahman. The gods, demons, and humans are all of the nature of Brahman. All the roving animals are of the nature of Brahman. All the mobile and immobile are of the nature of Brahman. The Lord of all this world and all his works are of the nature of Brahman. By the delusionless conviction, the bhava, that I am that fearless Brahman, conquer your mind. 16. The divisions, as the gross and such, are of the nature of Brahman. Duality and non-duality are of the nature of Brahman. Oneself and others are of the nature of Brahman. Verity and verisimilitude are of the nature of Brahman. All appearances, such as the world, are of the nature of Brahman. What are seemingly sentient or insentient are of the nature of Brahman. By the delusionless conviction, the bhava, that I am that great Brahman, conquer your mind. 17. The mass of knowledge is of the nature of Brahman. What is devoid of any entity of the world is of the nature of Brahman. What is formless like the sky is of the nature of Brahman. The limitless reality is of the nature of Brahman. Undiminishing happiness is of the nature of Brahman. The one, complete and perfectly full, is of the nature of Brahman. By the enjoyable conviction, bhava, that I am that immeasurable Brahman, conquer your mind. 18. The nature of Brahman is the fullness of the full. The nature of Brahman is the all complete and whole. The nature of Brahman is the knowledge of any knowledge. The nature of Brahman is the one undivided essence. The nature of Brahman is that which is without defect. The nature of Brahman transcends all attributes. By the enjoyable conviction, bhava, that I am that flawless Brahman, conquer your mind. '19. The nature of Brahman is a mass of existence, consciousness, bliss. The nature of Brahman is that which is permanent. The nature of Brahman is eternal and attributeless. The nature of Brahman is taintless and partless. The nature of Brahman is the pure expanse of supreme consciousness. The nature of Brahman is the crest of the Vedas. Son, by the complete conviction, bhava, that I am that supreme Brahman, conquer your mind. 20. The nature of Brahman is the cause of the cause. The nature of Brahman is that which is immaculate. The nature of Brahman is the completeness. The nature of Brahman is that which is defectless. The nature of Brahman is undecaying consciousness alone. The nature of Brahman is that which is without characteristics. By the changeless conviction, bhava, that I am that immortal Brahman, conquer your mind. 21. The nature of Brahman is the simplest of the simple. The nature of Brahman is the nature of Brahman is the nature magnificent, is the nature of the magnificent. The nature of Brahman is the most sanctified of the sanctified. The nature of Brahman is that which is higher than the highest. The nature of Brahman is devoid of the world, individuals, and the Supreme. The nature of Brahman is the nature of consciousness alone. By this ceaseless conviction, bhava, that I am that unaffected Brahman, conquer your mind. 22. The nature of Brahman is one, real and supreme. The nature of Brahman is a thing that is omnipresent. The nature of Brahman is knowledge that is originless. The nature of Brahman is not different from the self. The nature of Brahman is sorrowless, ineffable joy. The nature of Brahman is self-luminous. By the undivided conviction, bhava, that I am that Brahman, conquer your mind. 23. In the universalist nature of the pure expanse of consciousness, there is never a universe. Though in truth this universe does not exist in the least. In relative practice, the illusory appearance on consciousness, thought, will appear also as the expanse of the universe. Son, as aforesaid, destroy that thought by the perfectly full conviction, bhava, that I am Brahman. 24. Though the partless Supreme Brahman alone is the supreme truth, because the power of Maya, delusion, supporting all such endless powers, is retained in the mind, this nature has thought as a superimposition, and this perplexed thought is what appears as the false, endless, myriad worlds and such. 25. Just as the self, which is one without a second in deep sleep, appears as mind and others in a dream, by the power residing in it, the Supreme Brahman, which is one, by the power inherent in it, becomes like thought, and appears in the changing state of interactions, as the forms of all the world, individuals, and the Supreme. 26. Though the one Brahman, by its inherent power, exhibits a superimposition in duality, just as the rope by the power resident in it appears as the fearsome serpent, by a flawless inquiry into the substratum Brahman, all these appearances which are seen to be parts are indeed realized to be of the nature of the one undifferentiated Supreme Brahman. 27. Though appearing manifold as the serpent and others, on investigation into the substratum, the rope, all the false forms such as the serpent become only the rope form. Likewise, though appearing as the expanding universe, on investigation into the substratum, the pure Brahman, all these are only the undivided Supreme Brahman. 28. If, due to the originless tendencies, the vasanas of worldly existence, the undivided, undifferentiated knowledge does not prevail in the mind, even after constant daily inquiry, one should resort to the bhava, the conviction, that all is ever Brahman, and that is myself. I am that Brahman, the undivided nature, and persist in it until all the delusion of thoughts of difference are destroyed, and thereby prevent the ideation of differences. 29. It is thought imbued with the idea of differences that gives rise to the sorrow of bondage, such as birth. Thought that is devoid of the debilitating idea of differences will instantly remove all sufferings and confer liberation. Hence, by the constant I am Brahman bhava, conviction, that I am Brahman and I am all, you shall be rid of all adverse ideas of difference and attain liberation by flawless understanding. 30. If you are of the constant I am Brahman bhava, conviction, that I am Brahman, Brahman is myself, and I am all the creeping ideas of differences that the world, individuals, and the Supreme, and you, I, and this are each separate, will disappear. If the idea of differences is removed, as aforesaid, the knowledge of the perfectly full Supreme Brahman shall arise, and one can attain the non-dual state of liberation, of being established as the undivided Absolute. 31. By the I am Brahman bhava, conviction, desire and anger will be entirely effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman bhava, conviction, greed and infatuation will be entirely effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, arrogance and jealousy will be entirely effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, conceit and pride will be entirely effaced. There's no doubt about this. 32. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, the defects of the mind will entirely be effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, great sins will be entirely effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, the sorrows of the mind will be entirely effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, great fears will be entirely effaced. There's no doubt of this. 33. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, sacred rivers and charitable acts will entirely vanish. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, deities and service to them will all come to naught. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, meditation and worship will be effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, japa, repetition of a mantra, and tapas, intense practice, will all be effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, mantras and tantras will all be effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, karma and the consequences connected with it will entirely be effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, the Vedas and scriptures will all be effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, mental delusion will be entirely effaced. There's no doubt of this. 35. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, all merits will be effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, all manifest worlds will be effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, all pains of opposites will be effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, all the world will be effaced. There's no doubt of this. 36. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, all other existence will be effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, all other manifestations will be effaced. There is no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, all other happiness will be effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, all other connections will be effaced. There's no doubt of this. 37. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, all delusion and infatuation will be effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, all mental knots will be brought to naught. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, all mental and physical afflictions will be effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, all distortions will be effaced. There's no doubt of this. 38. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, wakefulness and other states will all be effaced. Have no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, the originless ignorance will be destroyed. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, the worldly birth and death cycle and all bondages will be destroyed. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, existence and non-existence will be entirely effaced. There's no doubt of this. 39. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction attitude, one can, without wavering, attain the undivided knowledge. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, all the originless sorrow can be effaced. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, undivided bliss can be attained uninterruptedly. There's no doubt of this. By the I am Brahman Bhava conviction, undivided liberation can be attained. There's not an atom of doubt of this. 40. Hence, ever pauselessly practice the I am Brahman conviction, thereby relinquishing all ideas of differences, and be of the nature of the undivided Brahman. There's not an atom of doubt in what has been said. I declare this in the name of the exalted Shiva. This is the meaning expounded by the scriptures. What is expounded by our Lord is also the same. 41. Non-self, apart from the self, never exists. Not an atom of it. Not an atom of it. Not even an atom. There is no Brahman apart from the self. There is no self apart from that Brahman. The self is the undivided Supreme Brahman. The undivided Supreme Brahman is the self. Attain the knowledge that I, the self, am Brahman, and thereby become the undivided Supreme Brahman. Conquer the mind. 42. Conquer the mind by the pure conviction, cultivated daily, that there is not an atom of the world and such, apart from the all-perfect fullness of Brahman. That all is the undivided Brahman, and that is myself, and I am only that. And attaining the complete, definite, undivided supreme conviction, become yourself the supreme, Brahman, existence, consciousness, bliss. 43. For the benefit of all, I have explained to you this definition of the undivided absolute, as it was expounded to me by the one supreme, perfectly full reality, rising in the beautiful form of Shiva. Those who have listened to and understood steadfastly in their minds this blemishless truth, exactly as explained, will become of the nature of the perfectly full Supreme Brahman. 44. Because of the tendencies, the vasanas, of immemorial times, the sense of duality persists again and again in the hearts of those who are ignorant and bereft of the grace of the Supreme Shiva, and all is not seen as Brahman. Even if they constantly study the Vedas and are instructed that all is Brahman. Noble one, therefore, all seekers after liberation should seek the grace of the undivided Supreme Brahman. 45. By wearing the insignia of Shiva, that is, the pure ashes and garlands of Rudraksha seeds, and by duly performing the daily Shiva worship to the spotless great Linga, and by meditation on the Supreme Shiva, the blemishless and the all-pervasive with nothing apart, the grace of the Supreme Shiva, conferring equanimity, will flow, and all will be seen as Brahman alone. 46. The worthy sage Sutta discoursed to the assembled sages of pure heart what the omniscient Skanda, in his unbounded grace, told the eager inquirer Jaikisharya, which is the explanation just declared as told to Nidaga by the sage Ribhu, in the same way as expounded to him by the Lord Ishvara, rising as the divine auspicious form. 47. It is the infinite form of our spotless Lord, in a state of joyous dance on the divine stage, that proclaims by the conviction, the bhava, of the identity that whatever thing there is, wherever, is all the one supreme, and that supreme am I, all the delusions of the blemished mind can be conquered, and by such knowledge immaculate liberation will be attained. And that concludes chapter 36 of the Ribhu Gita. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.